work, and coal miners seems to be the best fit. And so some of my first calls were to like Fitzgerald and the Wildlife Sanctuary, and just trying to figure out, and then coinciding with other gravel events that go on, and changing it. We did 3 days last year. We're changing it pretty much to a 2-day deal this year, just a one-nighter. And I offered to Kelly, like, there's just some things that are in the application that, you know, when you do your event committee, that there's some other questions you guys might be able to ask to help with porta potties and stuff like that in the future, and sanitation. If you need information on those kind of things. That was our conversation. So, because those are the kind of things that, you know, I do as an event person. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Jennifer? Yes, Teresa.
Yeah, I know that, you know, with the event committee still working on things, as you mentioned in your application, the ambulance services will likely be hired to be on call.
Mm-hmm.
Who pays for that?
I do.
So that
I pay for any cost
Yeah.
incurred. I've never asked the city or the county or anybody.
it's just not spelled out, so just for moving forward and things like that when we're considering the application. Thanks for the clarification.
Any other questions? Yes, Teresa.
Just a statement, I know that Jennifer runs a really tight ship. I've said it many times over. She's a good organizer, a good event holder. And I think the city of Red Lodge is really lucky that she brings these events to our city. She does a good job.
Jennifer, one of the things we chatted about was, you mentioned in the application that you are going to be offering some camping. So can you talk to us a little bit more about how many camp sites you know, how many tents you're wanting? I know it said van camping also, so
Yeah.
I'm assuming people will be parking in the
If
parking lot up there.
Right. So usually that's the time where hotels are sold out. Like last year, even we were in September, and I had a couple of people trying to get hotel rooms. So in order for us to get to a good capacity, we have camping too. You know, it depends on if you're okay with us using that south field versus the north field. I'm not sure which, you know, if you're okay with that, and how many you can kind of put out there for people. Because I also have to use it for staging for other things. I prefer people van camp or car camp. Not a lot of people will tent camp.
I know, I was pretty impressed with the number of tent campers they had a few years ago, given how rainy it was. That was a rugged group.
Yeah, that was a rugged group. That particular event had 385 people, and about 275 people camping. This event, I don't foresee more than 200 people registering. We only ran 75 last year. We kept it with COVID and stuff because I didn't want to deal with all of that. And so hopefully we do get to the 150 number and probably 50 people camping, I guess. We had 40 camping last year.
I was going to say that I looked at the application stuff and I thought, you know, everything west of the ball fields, there's some really nice, I mean, if they were tent camping, there's some really decent area. They could camp without any influx. I mean, it's just a nice area. I think it's a great place to move it to.
Do you mean kind of west of where the playground structures
West of
are?
where the ball fields is. Both ball fields sit there, well, west of the one where the campground is, there's a big area, and then if you go west of the other one, there's a pretty decent area, grassy area that's pretty level, pretty decent, would be tent camping.
Yeah.
Real easily.
We'd like to get to an event to where I have the 300 to 400 folks, and to get there, it just takes a few years. Like the road tour that Dave's talking about, that's a 10-year tour that now runs easily 400 people. So.
Any other questions from the table?
Is there any, I was trying to spin it around, and I'm directionally challenged. I have to have the matching how it is there. I don't imagine they didn't have a lot of impact when they were camping before.
No.
So is there even a possibility of the ball fields if they're not in use for other purposes, or?
Yeah, we'd love to use the ball fields if they're not in use for like, but like if there's a soccer practice or something, we'll work with them. Like we had the BRTA, we had the MCC crew camping there, and there was soccer going on, so we moved them around. Whoever, I mean, they're all just people that want to be outside, so usually it's pretty easy, depending on what's happening. Happy to work with whoever else is using the fields at that time.
Jody?
Yeah, I would just say, you know, if you could get with Courtney at the city, with the Parks Board, because she is trying to find out when the adult co-ed softball tournament is. I think it's the weekend before that. Just don't want them showing up to play in the middle of your event.
That would be good.
I know.
I think they're the weekend before.
I think they are too. So,
But, yeah.
and then we also have, they're going to have a brand new soccer field up there that will have brand new grass on it that they're planting, and it needs to be protected all summer. Right, so yeah, I guess just, you know, make sure that everybody knows not to go camp up there and things like that. So,
I'm assuming, probably a question for Jim, that if we've got that has to be protected off and nobody going on it, we're probably gonna have that marked or staked off somehow that lets Joe Bag of Donuts, who's never heard of it, not walk across it.
Protected from,
Just the new
the new
soccer field when it's planted, and they don't want people to walk on
oh
it
yeah,
for a
and
year.
they'll have to put some type of
like yellow tape around it.
protection barricades and stuff, yeah.
Probably
that would
working
be-
with Courtney on that.
Your guys, your folks will follow it, because you would just mention this, okay, we won't do that, but like I said, I'm concerned about everybody else who may
Yeah.
not know that, but, oh, look, cool, new grass.
Right, and, but like, and to be fair, like, it's good for you to bring up those concerns because we're the event that happens, so we'll get blamed for anything that does happen. Even if we could have all sorts of flagging, keeping our people off, but like if tourists or just somebody that's not familiar with that part of town, and it happens with garbage, it happens with all those kind of things, like, we picked up after ourselves, but did everybody else? So, it's a fair question, for sure. I'll get blamed. I promise you.
And you are bringing in porta potties and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. I have some stuff to give Kelly for your event group, actually, on all of that, so to help you guys out.
Yeah,
There's some algorithms on all of that that might help your event folks in the future.
How many porta potties for so many people?
yeah, that
That would be
Garbages.
That's what
Yeah.
Jennifer and I talked a little bit about this morning too, is, you know, that through the events committee, we're trying to make, or we will be making, changes to the actual application itself and the need for it to be more detailed so that all of these questions can be answered via the application and not necessarily have to, you know, engage with the planner, the organizer to ask these questions. We can, and Jennifer has a really great, since she's done these events for over 20 years, almost 30 years, and works with lots of different communities. She said she'd be more than happy to help the events committee come up with some.
Can that even just have the, probably, I'd say, seems to me like that process ought to just state X for X, you know, this is.
Yeah, I'm
what's
gonna leave some
required.
stuff with Kelly tonight, I've got her some documents, cause like, you don't need to recreate the wheel.
Right.
It's pretty cut and dry. A lot of communities have great events, big, small, motorcycle, bicycle, running, and they're fine. For the record. Yeah.
Dave?
I'd like to ask Jennifer, my favorite question to always ask.
Um,
Who is it in your mind that would have an objection or concern with this?
Not to pick on Jim, but usually somebody from Public Works is the person most worried about, like, sanitation or what is their crew gonna have to deal with the next day, and sometimes they have bad visitors, and so usually it's the Public Works person that's like, dude, the last group didn't pick up very well, so, no.
I just ask because then we can preemptively, like you said, deal with it and avoid it. And I think I saw that there was a letter from the Nature Center.
Yeah,
Sorry, the Wildlife Sanctuary.
usually you call your neighbors first.
Yeah. That's all I have, thank you.
Any other questions from the table? Questions from the public? Questions from the public? Questions from the public? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jennifer. I'm just gonna give this, I told Kelly I'd give her some.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer, thanks. Yeah, thanks for your time.
Next item is interlocal agreement, Carbon County Human Resource. This is up for discussion. Pete, you want to kind of lead us in on this?
Sure. Several months ago, I was asked to contact Angela at the county and propose this agreement. And she was receptive to that idea, and it took some time based on various work schedules. But this is the product that came across the board. I'm sure there'll be discussion and possibly questions, and we have representatives here from the county and also the city's legal department. If they have any comments or additional thoughts, this is a very, very good idea. It eliminates some areas that our staff may not be up to speed on, and it also allows us to have an objective third-party opinion. And however the final form takes shape, the idea of this is a productive document and policy for this city to consider.
And I will add to that we have worked with the county commissioners on this. They approve of it. Alex Nixon has reviewed the document. Our city attorney has reviewed the document with just some minor changes. It all came out the same. So I'll open it up for discussion. Teresa.
Well, I'm wondering, what are the rules of engagement? It just wasn't spelled out in here, so that the city and or staff, who would have authority or who is eligible to call over to conduct business with this human resources specialist. I just wasn't clear on that.
I think since it's a dollar amount that the mayor is going to be in charge of that. Dennison, you want to go any further on that? I was going to say, and if the mayor is involved in that, then it needs to go to the department head of the department. Go ahead.
That sounds great.
Okay, it's a great plan.
Mayor, members of the city council, one of the thoughts I have when reading through this is it is very short and concise. And so it doesn't spell out a lot of the kind of rules. Should it be in writing? Should it be by verbal? Who should do it? And I don't think that's a problem in this situation. And the reason for that, there will be some growing pains. However, it is a as-needed basis with a 30-day termination. So if it's not going well, the city will just not engage anymore and then terminate the agreement. So that's why I don't see that a lot of things need to be specified and spelled out because of that. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question while the attorney's up there. If I understood correctly, what I heard was that both attorneys had read through it. What I didn't hear, I suspect that just to confirm is, have both attorneys read and signed off on the final current copy, or if there have been changes made that one or the other party has not yet seen and signed off on?
Mayor, members of the city council. No, both the attorneys have talked about it and we're agree with the changes that are made.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Discussion at the table.
Yeah, sounds like a great
I
partnership.
like it is.
Yeah,
It really is.
thankful that the county is willing to
Sure.
help out, share, yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody know of any available housing for this individual?
Oh, yeah.
Put a camper up at the campground, fairground.
We won't dispute or dismiss that one.
Yeah, maybe coming.
Discussion from the public. Discussion from the public.
I would just offer, Bill Bullock, County Commissioner, 900 Kaiser Avenue, Red Lodge. This is a new position for the county. Good opportunity for the city to weigh in. The mayor and I have spoken about it, trying to clarify some of the
issues that may arise, and the biggest thing that came up is just identifying, you know, that separation in time between time obligated to city issues and time obligated to county issues. And I think we've got a pretty good address for that, just in how we track our time, and then just the liability, just because these are typically HR issues with disciplinary consequences that could come with it. And very clearly fleshing out that it's when this individual is acting on the city's behalf, this person is acting on the city's behalf. So I think that's been clearly identified, and the individual's got a pretty extensive experience in doing this. I think she's from Ohio. She's got, I think, 15 years under her belt in doing this in a professional, on the private sector. Got a great interview. I think the only challenge right now is finding a place to live. I'm excited to have her. One of the reasons we went down this avenue is we had a turnover of 18 individuals in the county. So with all that, that's pretty significant time onboarding and then offboarding and then all the information and stuff that goes with that. It takes away a lot of time. And when you have one person wearing a lot of hats like we do in our office, some things just come to a stop. So it's nobody likes to see government grow, but I think this provides some efficiencies both for the county and in this instance the city. So we're going to get there. So it'll be interesting. Our door's open. There's going to be some growing pains, like Denison said, but I don't think it's anything we can't get through. So thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Comments from the public? We'll move this forward to the council meeting. That starts at 7. That's it? That's it? We have to take a break.
I know.
Right.
That went way too easy.
I've got 40 minutes, everybody's got to go someplace else.
Joe Bullock, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Larson,
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Eaton. Here. Lyman.
Here.
Ronnie. Yes. Westwood.
Here.
Witcher. Here.
Minutes of November 9th and the 23rd.
I move to approve the minutes from the meeting on November 9th,
Work session or
the work session.
second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Kelly.
Yes.
Eaton.
Yes.
Lyman.
Yes.
Ronnie. Yes. Westwood.
Yes.
Whistler. Yes.
I move to approve the minutes from the regular session on November 9th.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Kelly.
Yes.
Eaton.
Yes.
Lyman.
Yes.
Ronnie. Yes. Westwood.
Yes.
Whistler. Yes.
And I move to approve the minutes from the working session on November 23rd.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Kelly.
Yes.
Eaton.
Yes.
Lyman.
Yes.
Ronnie. Yes. Westwood.
Yes.
Whistler. Yes.
Warrants payable.
Okay, this month we had a particularly big series of warrants. The usual, I'll just read a couple of the bigger ones, but the city clerk informs me that all of this is public information. If anybody wants to look at it closer, they can come into City Hall and get a copy of this, which is several pages. The big ones would be typically the Republic Services, 42,535 this time, which is not surprising. And then we had a number of larger payments related to construction projects in town. Excuse me just a minute here. For the water work on Grant Avenue, 33,000. Great West Engineering, 36,000. It adds up pretty fast. Anyway, the usual sorts of expenses, and then interest payment on sewer refund bonds, 22,000. And finally, let's go right to the heart of it. So the first pool bond payment of $49,349. And then for COP construction, the total, $250,784. And the total this month, which is, I believe, the largest I've seen since I've been on city council, $812,105. And again, all of this is broken out if somebody's interested in exactly where this all goes.
I'll accept the motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve this. Second. Warrants payable.
Discussion. Roll call.
Kelly.
Yes.
Eaton.
Yes.
Lyman.
Yes.
Ronnie. Yes. Westwood.
Yes.
Whistler. Yes.
Officer reports. Chief Schrock is up in Helena attending Landon's graduation from the police academy.
Yay.
So that's why he's not here. So we'll have another officer ready that's already gone through the field officer training and through the academy, and so we have a new one on board. We'll go from there. So we'll get that from him, or Chris will get it from him later.
Have they announced the new hire yet, or is that still in process?
One of them, Chad, has moved here already and is doing his FTO training. The other one is just about done with all the background checks and all of that. I don't know when it's gonna go in front of the police commission, but we're getting close. So we'll be fully staffed. Mayor's comments. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for working with me through the years. Some of you 4 years, some of you 2. I think we've done a lot of great things for the city. Staff, thank you very much. We've done a lot of great things. And thank you for all your help, and we'll carry on, okay? I'll still be around. Commissioner Bullock has a report for us.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I brought a couple different things.
I told him I'd get him out of here early.
Provided the mayor, the county's gonna enter into, filing an amicus brief in support of DNRC and the Forest Service, the Greater Red Lodge Area Logging Project, which has been planned for, I know, at least 10 years. It's been back in and out of court. It was supposed to commence last year and then got sent back into court for further environmental review. DNRC, Department of Natural Resources Council, and the Forest Service are filing a amicus brief and a friend of the court brief to try and further that. I did provide a copy of the resolution that we're going to vote on next week to perpetuate that whole process. As we all saw this summer, when there's an overburden of fuels on the forest, we have fires. And that's the purpose of this project, is to reduce the amount of fuels on the forest. They've been doing it on the state land towards the end of Fox Road and Gabriel Road for the last 1.5 years, 2 years. It's going to be more of that. Red Lodge Mountain has done their share this last year to clear their private holdings on their property up there to try and preserve the ski hill and the destination and economic driver it is for our community. So we made the ask. I just provided the mayor with paperwork to just a template. It's a rough draft, something to go off to go down that road with adopting resolutions. So it's one of those things where people will sign on. Typically a city doesn't, but I think that it's more than appropriate given the front row seat that our town had last year for our fires. I think it definitely applies because it had an ongoing impact for us year long. So just something for you guys to all look at, and whether that's the new administration or current, what it looks like, that's where we're going. Also in the work session, I think everybody's here with the exception of a couple, the expansion of the county adding a HR professional to our staff and then providing that service at a per diem rate back to the city to provide the service to the city as well. It's going to be new for all of us, so we're going to kind of go down a road that we all don't really know, but we're going to stumble down the road either way. I think it's going to be a definite gain. Our city's growing, our county's growing, we're different than we used to be, and we're going to have a lot of growing things. Nobody likes to make government bigger or spend more money, but the reality is when you need something, you need something. Have things flow a little smoothly and do it in a cooperative effort, I think is a gain for the city and the county. So I look forward to all that. I think this is the mayor's last meeting. I think that the city and the council and staff, they should really appreciate the mayor for his efforts. He has put his hat out, he's put his hand out, he's attended our meetings. I think our communication with the city is probably at a higher level than it's ever been. Our interactions have always been amiable. We've always had a good open door policy both ways, and it's been much appreciated. So thank you. You can always stick around.
Yeah. I want to thank you too, Commissioner Bullock. That it's been great working with you, and yes, that relationship has really been good. I mean, we have meetings every Thursday, and it's a sit down and this is what the city's doing, this is what the county's doing, and things like this interlocal agreement, that's what comes out of those conversations by sharing. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, and just another comment, I know that Ms. Battles is here, or Drinkwall. They have at the fairground last year. They were good guests. Turned out good for them. They got bigger than they thought it would be, but they were pretty good guests in the county. So, for what it's worth. What am I forgetting, Bill?
I think you got it more or less. When we get further down the line, that the commissioners are going to be looking for for city support for this project. And I think it's a great project, and you guys carry on with it, so.
And that filing for that amicus brief, again, it's a decision of the governing body, being the mayor and council, you know, and you guys have to look at that also. You know, we're gonna do the legwork. It's grant funded through the Montana Coalition of Forest Counties. It's in cooperation with a lot of collaboratives statewide, and the coalition, the funds, the grant funds are there. We have a 10% match. The county's gonna come up with that. If the city wants to copy our stuff, I think we're just gonna welcome you to it. Insert City of Red Lodge and post a card in, because this is an important thing. You know, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody wants it. We're front row seat for what we had last summer. It's not a guarantee, but it's definitely a step in the right direction to try and get through over a decade of vacations. So, working with the mayor and council and seeing what we can get done.
All right.
Thank you.
Any questions for Commissioner?
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Event committee update.
Okay, I will give an update. The committee has met several times since the last time we gave you an update, and so just wanted to tell everyone what we're doing, what things have been completed, and what's in process, and what you can expect moving forward. We've done a complete data analysis of all the public forum input, all the emails that were sent to all the council members and to the city. We've collected all that data and the demographics and rolled it all up, and a big thank you to Carrie Durbin for doing that. She created this monster spreadsheet that has like 4 different tabs on it, and it's very, very well done, and it's got all the information about,
Pretty colors.
it's very pretty colors.
And,
And,
just black
I
and
tried.
white.
yeah. And I think what it'll do is really provide a springboard for moving forward, and with suggestions that we're going to have for changing the application itself, and some of the expectations that we'll have for event organizers. So that's all been done, and so now the next steps are we're putting together a survey that we're going to distribute to all downtown businesses. Actually, we talked about it this morning when we met, that we'd like to extend that to all businesses along Broadway, and talk to them specifically about effects of each event, of each special event, and temporary vendors on their bottom line revenue for each event. So it's going to be one that a business will take this survey, and they'll be able to say by each event if it affects their bottom line positively, negatively, or if it doesn't affect it at all. So we'll have some really great data to move forward. The sectors are retail, bars and taverns, and commercial and professional businesses. So we expect to have that out, and then hopefully all that responses in by the end of January. Meanwhile, we're also collecting data from the city, and specifically from Jim at Public Works, and then also from Greg at police, and how much resources and money it takes for each one of how these events, affect each one of those departments, so that we can compare that to non-event periods in town. So that's also happening right now and should be complete by February. We spoke to this a little bit earlier when Jennifer was asking about, had her special event permit, of researching kind of best known methods, what other tourist towns and what other communities do, and how they have their applications and their requirements. And several people have asked different committee members how they can be involved in the special events committee. And I think we all agree on the events committee, this is a perfect way for people that want to be involved to get involved, to help us do that research about what are the best practices. And because none of us wants to recreate the wheel. If there's something that works really well in different communities, we'd love to copy it and move forward in that way. So if there's any volunteers that would like to help us with that aspect of researching best known methods for events in other communities, please contact any one of us if you're interested in volunteering. Then we'll review all that data and research, and then we'll generate a plan with a timeline and issues that we're going to present to the public. So we'll have another public forum where we'll actually present all of this findings to the public and provide feedback for final tweaks to our plan. And then we'll kind of prepare our last revision of the plan and get approval of the mayor and the council. And that our goal is to have that all done by the end of Q1, so the end of March. So that is the update as of now.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Terrific.
If
This
anybody has
was
any
only like
questions.
a paragraph long and you were like 2 pages. Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Excuse me. We'll move on to public comments. Anyone may address the council at this time on any topic within the city's jurisdiction, not specifically on this agenda. Once again, if you're in the audience, you step up to the podium. You have 3 minutes. State your name, your address. Anyone online, go ahead and, yep, just like you're doing there, David. And we'll take people in the audience first, and then we'll move to the people that are online.
Tim Weimer, I live in Rivington Ranch, in the county. I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you, Bill, for your service to the town. I have had the opportunity over the years to work with you in a few different capacities, whether it's over coffee or serving on a board to help being seated on a board by you. And I think you should be proud in knowing you did the one thing that every public officer should set out to do. You're leaving Red Lodge better than you found it. Yeah, so thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Tim. Any other public comments from the gallery here?
Yeah, and and also Bill, I'd like to say thank you. You're part of the reason that I'm in Red Lodge, since you are on my interview committee for Energy Board.
Thank you.
And yeah, you were a great first boss after college. You gave me a lot of room to learn and grow, and now I get to stay here. So
Yeah.
thank you.
You did a great job.
So first, I'd like to speak in support of the energy performance contract. Courtney and the Sustainability Board have done a lot of great work on this. McKinstry is a really solid firm. I got to speak with people that they worked with when I was with Energy Corps. And it's a very rare thing to actually have a guaranteed return on investment for energy projects. So that's really a no-brainer. And I'm really excited to see that follow through, because I left a mess with Courtney to deal with to follow it through. And then the second reason I'm here is to speak in support of the TIF district in my capacity as the housing coordinator at the Red Lodge Area Community Foundation. And just to preface this, so Beartooth RCMD, they're an economic development agency that oversees a 5-county region, including Carbon County. And they've been working on a housing study for the better part of a year. It's so close to being done. So I'll come back when it's final to give some of the data that they've collected there. But they say in their preliminary results, as of mid-2021, only a few dozen vacant service lots exist in and around Red Lodge. Compared to a few years ago, it was 240 vacant service lots. And that trend is giving no signs of letting up anytime soon. So we're really at an inflection point with housing. A lot of the homes that are being developed are not workforce housing, especially for some of our essential workers like teachers, police officers, people that are working in the restaurants, and I can shower you in statistics, but we all know what's going on. So even if it's not TIF, finding some other way to fund what the TIF district was going to do is just so important for people on council now, that will be on council next year. Even if you're not going to be on next year, you're not off the hook, because it's everybody's problem and everybody needs to be a part of the solution with this. So, I think the TIF district is a really great way to fund workforce housing incentives without increasing taxes. It's a really elegant way to do that, and there's not a lot of other ways to make that happen. to the Housing Committee at the Red Lodge Area Community Foundation. We've been around for over 6 years now, and we're bankers, lenders, realtors, passionate volunteers, and they're all disappointed that the TIF district didn't go through a couple weeks ago. So even if it's not that, it's okay. But I would just implore this council and the next one to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good, because we need to act fast, because things are just going like that, and people that work here are not able to live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Comments from the public in the gallery.
We're not really up to the urban renewal district yet.
So,
Is that correct?
what that motion is a motion to reconsider. And that's all we'll be discussing is the motion to reconsider. So if you have a public comment now, would be the time to say it.
Okay, first I just wanted to thank you, Mayor Larson, for your service to the community, and council members. Thank you guys. People are leaving, and welcome to new people coming. Also, thank you for your time. I just want to kind of go over a few things. I was just going to kind of read through a definition here, and I wanted you to keep in your mind, you know, which one of these items truly defines this north end of town here. So the proposal of the urban renewal district refers to the north end of town as a blighted area. And according to Montana Code 7-154206, the blighted area means an area that is conducive to ill health, transmission of disease, infant mortality, juvenile delinquency, and crime that substantially impairs or arrests the sound growth of the city or its environs, that retards the provisions of housing accommodations, or that constitutes a menace to public health, safety, welfare, and morals in its present condition and use. By using the term blight, the city is misleading members of this community in order to raise the city's tax base and gain control over private dwellings and businesses. The businesses on the north end of town are far from being an economic liability. In fact, they provide essential services to the people of Red Lodge and surrounding areas. Passing this proposal and comparing our tourist destination ski town to that of an inner city urban area with real blight and decay is setting the city up for future disputes with private sectors, and the misrepresentation of the blight urban renewal district puts those advocating for it and the city at a real risk of the intent to commit fraud.
I didn't catch your name and your residence.
Oh, Marshall Bisher, Buescher, and I'm tied to a business on the north end of town.
Thank you, Marshall. Any other comments from the gallery? Comments from the gallery?
Dave Fisher, northward. I want to say that I'm opposed to this urban renewal district. I think you've stepped over the line when you start targeting other people's property. It's one thing if you want to spend money and figure out taxes and so on, but the idea that my property could be up for eminent domain and seizure, we're going to go to battle.
Thank you, Dave. Any more public comment from the gallery? Public from the or comments from the gallery, sorry. This is my last meeting. Any more public comment? David, you had something? Go ahead.
Have I successfully unmuted myself?
Yes.
Okay, great. David Lunhair, Lehnherr, live on Word Avenue, and I just, a couple of major points. The first one is a thank you to the mayor and the city council for your service. You certainly can't please all the people all the time, but I have to say I really admire your commitment to public service and the time it takes. So thank you very much. The second major point I wanted to make was regarding the Christmas stroll, and many of my comments are reiterated in the front page article that was in the Carbon County News. I think the Christmas stroll is an example of a special event that Red Lodge really needs to encourage. You know, it doesn't dominate the town for an entire week. Businesses don't lose money. It's family friendly. People are coming to Red Lodge for the Christmas stroll, as opposed to some events where people are avoiding Red Lodge because of the nature of the event. So as we go forward, I hope we can keep the Christmas stroll in mind as an event that we should strive to emulate. And finally, again, thank you, Mayor Larson and the City Council for your service. It's very admirable. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Anyone else online have a public comment? Public comment online. Public comment online. We'll move on to old business. Investment grade audit contract. This is up for action.
Move to authorize the mayor.
We get to do it finally. I know.
Go ahead, Dave.
I think, was there somebody online who just got their mute unworking? I think they were having technical difficulties.
Nope, we're good.
Move to authorize the mayor to autograph the investment grade audit contract.
Second.
Comment at the table. Any comment at the table? Comment from the public?
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Courtney. Any comments? Okay. Any other comments from the public? Roll call.
Kelly,
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yes.
Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
The next item up for action is a very difficult one, very complex. I've worked with Dan Clark for a couple days on this. He understands exactly where we're at. And I need to make some things clear before we get to that motion. This is a motion to reconsider ordinance. A council on the prevailing side of the vote on the ordinance has decided to move this to a motion to reconsider. The discussion and vote is only on whether not to consider or to consider to move this forward to a date certain time. So it is a procedural matter. If you're going to recluse yourself, it has to have to do with the procedural matter. So we're talking about the motion to reconsider is all we're talking about here at the table. We're not talking about the ordinance. It's the motion to reconsider. We got it? I'll take that motion. Yes, Tom.
I move we reconsider the council's action taken on November 23rd that failed a provisional adoption of ordinance 956, urban renewal district after a public hearing, first reading, therefore denying another public hearing and a second reading. I believe additional discussion among the council and the second public hearing could result in a more thorough evaluation of the ordinance and a more informed decision among council regarding any potential amendments and or final adoption.
I second it.
Okay. Discussion. Tom.
I also think that this should be forwarded or move to, council consideration in, February, on the second, well, the first council meeting in February next year.
So for clarification, you mean to a date certain of
Yes,
February 8th?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. Should we make that as an amendment, or do you want to put that into your same motion?
I'd say put it in the same motion.
Dave?
I was just gonna, a couple things. The motion to reconsider is not, subject to amendment, so we can't, it has to be part of the first. But it also, and I would defer to Dan on it, but in my understanding, it does not require a date certain as part of that. The motion is, it can just be, call up the motion to be reconsidered in the future time when council feels it's ready. So you don't have to put that pressure on yourself at this point, based on my understanding. So I have no objection if it's part of the original motion, but it needs to be part of the original motion, not an amendment from a procedural standpoint.
Yep, okay. More discussion at the table.
Does this fall into the quarterly restrictions of when it has to be brought back up?
This starts that whole process. So that's within the time limit to reconsider.
My question is though, does the city work on a calendar quarterly, or does it work whenever it happens to start, say if like the budget does in July? What I'm trying to determine is if when this quarterly requirement ratchets in, if we are to reconsider this.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Mayor, my understanding is that the move to reconsider an action from the previous meeting only has to be held at the next council meeting, which is what's being done here. And that it's seconded by any member, not of the prevailing party, that is not required. A date certain was not my understanding as necessary either. I think that there was some discussion about that being the first opportunity to get the new sitting council engaged with a reading. And then what I would like to have clarification on is if we need, with the new sitting council, I would understand or assume that we need 2 readings and 2 public hearings from that point on, right?
I agree.
It as an ordinance, it requires 2 successful readings. It does not require it to be the same. So if we had taken this up for action tonight, this council could have approved the first reading. Subsequent council could have approved the second reading. The requirement is that the ordinance is the same at both readings, not that it's the same people who pass it.
Right.
So, and speaking to the timelines, I can offer my understanding. I don't think it's tied to a city budgeting system or schedule at all. My understanding is I do recall hearing at one time, and maybe a little bit of clarification would be helpful. I do recall James at one time mentioning that this needed to be approved both readings by the end of this year, and I believe that was in order to establish the tax deadline, which was referred to, I think erroneously, as 2020 in the document that we had last time. And I think that what we're hearing is that deadline is maybe not a real deadline. We've learned additional information, and that probably, I'm guessing, pertains more to the June of next year, which has to do with some changes in the TIF law. Is there anything you want to speak to us about timing or scheduling, or what do you see as the deadline for when this does need to be done?
Actually, at this point, that really has a deadline for next November. So at this point, the ordinance would have to have a January 1, 2022 date.
So that's
Oh, it's my understanding as well, though, that the sooner, if we were to bring this back to public hearing and readings, and if it was approved, that it's a better condition for Red Lodge because there are developers asking all the time, what incentives do we have for development?
I've got 4 different developers who are hoping that the urban renewal district gets passed, to take advantage. 3 for, housing potentially. So, yeah, that's a very good point, Teresa. If it waits till November, we're probably, not gonna get moving forward on the project. We could, I mean, out of the 3 developers looking to do specifically housing, 1 has basically decided to walk away, and 2 are kind of evaluating the situation.
So we're kind of getting back into that whole ordinance. Let's move it back into the motion to reconsider. Because that's what we're discussing here. Okay,
I will throw my vote in that I am absolutely open to reconsidering this. I think it was evident at the last meeting that I had some ideas of, I'm not opposed to the concept of a TIF. I just want to make sure that we are using it appropriately to address. And then I think in order for us to get it to that point, recognizing that once the end of the year has come, I will no longer have a vote. I will just be a voice. And I'm okay with that. But I would like to see us be able to put something in. The overwhelming thing that I do hear people, and I'll try to do this without straying from the lane there. The overwhelming thing that I hear people say is they'd like us to get this in place so that we can use it as a tool to help address specifically the workforce housing. And so the motions that I had in my mind, and I blinked and didn't get the opportunity to introduce last time, had to do with making sure that that TIF was being able to use for that purpose. I still think it could be modified so that that is its purpose. And I am absolutely on board with moving this conversation forward. I recognize the comments earlier of don't let the perfect get in the way of the good, but I do think that there's a threshold of good enough. And I think we need to make sure that this gets used for the things that it's been said for. I read the letter that was forwarded from the school district, and that was actually in line with a lot of the comments that I'd heard when I talked to school members, but they had always expressed their desire was to make sure that we address the workforce housing. And I think we need to be careful to make sure that, I think we need time to have that discussion to make sure that we address that problem. And therefore, I'm in favor of moving this forward.
Teresa.
I believe that moving this forward to a new set of public hearings and readings will provide just that, the opportunity for the community to better understand what it means and how it could benefit Red Lodge and the community. And it has my full support. It doesn't hurt to discuss.
Yes, go ahead.
I agree that more discussion doesn't hurt. And so that's why I'm in favor of bringing it back, and so that we can have more discussions, because I think it's been said many times that it needs more discussion and people want to understand it more. So I think that's our job to discuss it more and to educate the public about it.
Yes.
I guess I'm just a little bit confused. It seems like you're saying that I shouldn't abstain from this vote, but to me, I'm still voting. If you're bringing it forward, I'm still voting on this. So I feel that I should abstain still, I guess, is my, I don't know, Dennis, what do you, I mean,
Yeah,
it's still the same thing. I just.
Well, the vote is just to whether or not to bring it back up for discussion.
Right,
But it's not a vote for it or against it. It's just a vote to actually.
Except that if it was voted down because we voted no, then it would kill it still. Do you see what I'm saying? It's still the same thing. And still, I just feel like.
That's where the procedural matter comes in.
Right.
And that's, he stressed that is what we are voting on. We are not voting on anything. We are not voting on the ordinance. We're voting on bringing it back to reconsider.
And I would offer that if you're apprehensive about it, were I in your shoes and I were apprehensive around it, I would say, I understand this is a procedural matter and I still choose to abstain. And I think that's the prerogative of anybody on council. And if you were worried that about it puts you in a legal jeopardy, I think that's absolutely your right to do so.
Teresa?
I don't know if this helps or not, but my take on it is, what you're voting on is whether or not to have that item on the agenda with the new sitting council, just to continue a discussion about the ordinance. Nothing about the ordinance right now. That's it.
Dave?
I just want to throw in 2 cents of an amendment to Teresa's statement, even though it's Teresa's statement.
Can I amend my
Where-
statement?
I am. There was a part that I took exception to. I don't believe that this action is to move this item forward with a new council. It's to move this item forward. It just so happens that it will be with a new
Oh, well,
council.
excuse me.
I
It
just-
will
it's-
appear on the agenda somewhere with the new sitting council.
Right, but that's not the objective of this motion, is to move it to a new council. It's just to
It's
move
to
it
have it as
forward.
an item on the agenda with the new sitting council, because
Okay.
you won't be here.
We don't need to correct each other now, so we'll see what they think they're saying. Any other discussion at the table? Okay. Any more discussion at the table? Discussion from the public? Discussion from the public? Discussion from the public? Roll call.
Kelly,
No.
Keaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie, abstain. Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Motion passes. We get down to correspondence. I don't want. New business, interlocal agreement, Carbon County, Human Resources Action.
Move to authorize the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement with the county for HR resources.
I'll second it.
Discussion. We kind
It's
of,
great.
we did it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. No discussion at the table. Discussion from the public. Discussion from the public. Discussion from the public. Roll call.
Kelly,
Yes.
Keaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yes.
Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Thank you. How about correspondence? Yes, Teresa.
I only have it written in my own email and not delivered yet, but I would like to thank Mayor Larson. Grateful for your service as Mayor of Red Lodge these past 4 years. It must have been a very difficult time, especially with all the twists and turns you were presented with. I'm sorry, I'm reading it, because I don't want the loss of your spouse to begin with, and navigating standard and new events in Red Lodge, magnified by a political climate that increased divisiveness amongst our community, the pandemic, keeping infrastructure afloat. While growth and development have rapidly increased, yet diminished our workforce housing. And then there's the wildfire near Red Lodge, et cetera. So it could not have been easy with the number of strong personalities at play in a small city where so many of us know each other, but not always all the facts. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to I'd like to thank Mayor Larson for his 4 years. I've been through 9 mayors, if you count the ins and outs of Brian Rope, but 7 mayors, new mayors. Working with him was the best deal. His communications and his leadership skills, the way he runs, have been fantastic. I loved him to be here through my retirement because he's been great and he's done more for the city. We have had more done happen in this city, even with all the things that happened. We've improved more. You've left the city in better shape, and I appreciate you being here and hope that our new mayor can do the same thing.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, I second that. Roll call.
One more time. Let me break a vote.
Do that a couple
I know.
times.
Any other correspondence?
Thank you, Bill. for
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. How about number 11?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Me too. Meeting
All right.
adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
All right.
I won't have to be amending my statements anymore. Sorry.